Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and Robert Downey Jr. is playing Dr. Victor Von Doom in Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. An announcement I was fortunate to be in Hall H at San Diego Comic-Con to witness, and I can tell you firsthand, while the roar was deafening upon Marvel's most iconic tan coming back, elsewhere in the days since, the casting has raised some questions. Is Marvel now creatively bankrupt by bringing back the big guns and bell-bottoms, even when that casting confuses fans and does a disservice to the character? Or is Marvel just financially bankrupt and knows Downey can deliver billions? Hey, to quote the guy, is it too much to ask for both? Look, I completely understand any confusion that might be out there. Like, why not give a new actor a chance? And would this mean that we never get a classic Latvian Doom origin? Well, after replaying what I witnessed in Hall H and analyzing more closely specifically what Marvel is doing with its Fantastic Four movie, I actually think I figured it out. Exactly why the Russos considered the casting of Robert Downey Jr. to be that crucial to the story they want to tell. Why they think it has to be Downey. So I'm gonna break it down and specifically what new mask, same task really means. So Marvel's Hall H panel ended by revealing the Russo brothers were returning to direct Avengers 5 and 6, Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars, and that Robert Downey Jr. will return as Victor Von Doom. But since most people know him to be forever and ever Tony Stark, the way I see it, there's really one of four ways a Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom could work. Option 1, Robert Downey Jr. is just playing a new character. This would be like Gemma Chan playing Cersei in Eternals after she had played Minerva in Captain Marvel, or Ralph Ineson playing Galactus in Fantastic Four First Steps after he had played a Ravager in Guardians of the Galaxy. Because this would just be saying actors are not the characters they play, and one actor can play multiple roles within one cinematic universe. Actually, I think that's what most people who aren't overthinking this are just assuming to be the case. But if that is the case, I get the concern among a lot of you, because you cannot compare Gemma Chan and Ralph Ineson to what Robert Downey Jr. was to the MCU. He was the face of the franchise. And Marvel Studios has been so insistent on that actor equals character standard, a rule that they established and insisted that they live by, that they refused to recast T'Challa after Chadwick Boseman's death and wrote the character's death into the movies. So if Marvel ends up never explaining why it had to be Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom, we could end up back in an Evan Peters and WandaVision scenario, where we keep expecting the studio to tie it back to the past role we all know him from, or it's just gonna require a performance as Dr. Doom from Robert Downey Jr. that is even more transcendent than he was as Tony Stark. And that is a very high bar. Like, Robert Downey Jr. is a great actor, but can he completely transform what we love about him from every film role the way actors like, say, Gary Oldman or Daniel Day-Lewis can? I guess we'll see. I am excited to see what he does with it. But alternatively, there's option 2. This is a Dr. Doom from the 2010 What If storyline Iron Man Demon in Armor, or another Iron Man / Doom comic. So this What If storyline shows Victor Von Doom having as a college roommate, instead of Reed Richards, the brilliant playboy Tony Stark. Victor creates a machine that can swap minds, and Victor's mind goes into Tony's body, and Tony's mind goes into Victor's body, and we arrive at a what if hypothetical where we have a Tony Stark who becomes Dr. Doom. Comics Explained actually did an amazing breakdown of the storyline that you should definitely go watch. While I think knowing this storyline could tell us the general direction Marvel Studios is going in, this storyline as it is not a story that Marvel would make a billion-dollar movie out of, or pay Robert Downey Jr. upwards of $100 million to star in. Like, it would make a really good episode of the animated What If series, but as a live-action film, it might just be too out there for a tentpole movie. Similarly, there have been other comics like the infamous Iron Man in 2016, in which Victor Von Doom takes on the mantle of Iron Man. But think about that in the film universe. That would not require Marvel to have Robert Downey Jr. in that role. You could have any actor as Victor Von Doom taking on the mantle of Iron Man. That isn't a Tony Stark story, it's a Victor story. So that brings us to option 3. Tony Stark, as the anchor being of Universe 616, has doppelgangers that exist in every universe with equally important roles. So I'll admit this is kind of a confusing explanation that I considered in our first night San Diego Comic-Con videos when I was trying to make sense of this. But basically, the concept of anchor beings was established in Deadpool and Wolverine. These are beings whose deaths trigger the decay of the universe that they live in. So in the Fox X-Men universe 10005, the anchor being is Wolverine. Throughout Comic-Con, reporters smartly asked Marvel sources who was the anchor being of the 616 MCU, and our friend Brandon Davis asked this question to Kevin Feige himself.
Sorry, is Iron Man the anchor being of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which anchor being is a concept introduced in Deadpool and Wolverine?
The fact that you even asked that makes me very happy. Amen. And that term has ignited your imagination.
So with that answer, I think Feige was cluing us in to the fact that we might be barking up the right tree here, and that Robert Downey Jr. could could be an anchor being across several universes. Like in 616, we have Tony Stark. In this new alternate Fantastic Four universe, he plays Victor Von Doom. In some other universes out there that we'll see soon, we could have a Robert Downey Jr. Doctor Strange, a Robert Downey Jr. Norman Osborn, a Robert Downey Jr. Superior Iron Man who's a real asshole. You see where I'm going here? But I also get this might just be too confusing, and it really does limit who could be the anchors in other universes. So we finally arrive at the explanation that I think for now makes the most sense. Option 4, Robert Downey Jr. plays an alternate universe Tony Stark who takes on the identity of Dr. Doom, pursuing Iron Man's philosophy to a villainous extreme. So let's review what Joe Russo actually said.
As proof of the unimaginable possibilities in the Marvel multi-universe, we give you the one person who could play Victor Von Doom.
Pause the clip. You may have caught there that Joe Russo kind of tripped up his words there. He said, as proof of the unimaginable possibilities in the Marvel multi-universe, we give you one person that can play Victor Von Doom. So it's not clear if Joe was trying to say Marvel Universe, Marvel Multiverse, or Marvel's multiple universes. But obviously it's an insane statement to say the one person that can play Victor Von Doom and then bring out the Tony Stark guy. Like, Joe Russo must know that. Clearly what they are saying is, this is the definitive Dr. Doom in the multiverse narrative that we are currently telling for right now. And that multiverse version of Dr. Doom must have the face of Tony Stark. Trust us, there's a narrative reason why it has to be him. Now, Robert Downey Jr., for his part, only said a few words.
New mask. Same task.
Yes, and Anthony Russo repeated this phrase, new mask, same task. They are inviting us to try to decode what that means. It's obviously a reference to the metal mask of Iron Man, but the task being the same. What was Tony Stark's task? To put a suit of armor around the world, to make it a safer place, running on clean energy, replacing the weapons he built with one weapon that he can control, as he is haunted by a paranoid sense of futurism that Thanos called cursed with knowledge, that eventually led to Tony delving into a bit of magic by decoding time travel and wielding Infinity Stones, but he died before he could go further down that path. What if he didn't? Like, imagine, in a world without the Avengers, wouldn't a man like that eventually become basically what Dr. Doom is? The philosophies are pretty similar. The difference is the origin. Billionaire playboy on one hand, Latvian pauper in the other. Geology has been sponsoring us for over 2 years, which is crazy because that means I've been a daily Geology user for 2 years now. When we started, I thought, sure, I'll take some free face wash and shampoo from work, why not? But then I started noticing smoother, more hydrated skin, fewer blemishes, and less oilness. Do you have any idea how much footage of myself I need to watch at this job? I notice these things. And now over 3,000 of our viewers have also made Geology part of their daily routine. They've shared reviews with us saying things like, the products are easy to use and definitely have a real impact on the look and feel of your hair and skin. Highly recommend. And also, not a skincare guy, well, at least I wasn't. This stuff is amazing and the products are top notch. Want to see for yourself? Just click the link in the description below, take a quick 30-second quiz, and Geology will figure out your routine for you. Just click the link in the description below to get 90% off your first skincare trial set and 20% off your next full-sized order, or go to geolog.ie/rockstars90x20 to get started. But let's remember, Robert Downey Jr. is 59 years old. He's gonna be in his early 60s as he's playing this version of Dr. Doom. And there's no way Marvel Studios cast him to play a Victor Von Doom with the classic Latvian origin story of the character. And when it comes to the Fantastic Four movie, Matt Shakman made it clear that Fantastic Four First Steps is not an origin story.
I mean, one of the things we decided early on was not to do an origin story. We're not telling the story of them going up and being changed.
Now, we don't know for sure if Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Doom will be in this Fantastic Four film before Avengers Doomsday. Matt Shakman won't say either way.
Doom is a major Fantastic Four villain.
Yes.
We know Downey played Iron Man in the Sacred Timeline. You guys are in a different timeline here. Is he part of the Fantastic Four film here, the first one?
Cannot say anything.
But Kevin Feige did confirm that the Fantastic Four are returning in Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. And many of us have speculated based on that Downey's version of Doom will appear in a credit scene to Fantastic Four. Like, that almost seems like an inevitable thing. Hey, maybe it's just because I was there in Hall H and I got to see the Fantastic Four concept footage and I was left with so much optimism for Marvel's overall vision for how they're gonna keep that going in Doomsday and Secret Wars. Maybe more than those who didn't see that footage or who did see it but just just didn't take it that seriously because it was mostly previs. And maybe that's why they're approaching all of this with a sense of cynicism. But based on the way that the Hall H announcements were structured, Kevin Feige was clearly planting the seeds for this version of Doctor Doom to be planted in this alternate universe Fantastic Four story. That's why they're calling it First Steps. Shackman confirmed it was a Neil Armstrong reference, but that there were other meanings behind that title that he couldn't talk about yet. Fantastic Four First Steps, again, will be set in an alternate universe in a retrofuturist Sid Mead-inspired Manhattan during the early 60s space race, but with more advanced technology than we had in our reality. Marvel gave those in attendance a fantastic fan showing a map of this alternate universe Manhattan filled with Easter eggs. There's a Baxter building connected to the Excelsior launch pad, which we saw a version of in the concept trailer. And of course, Excelsior is Stan Lee's catchphrase and also the New York State motto, meaning ever upward. And that launch pad is right in the middle of the East River. There's also Ben Grimm's neighborhood of Yancey Street and nods to Subterranea, which is Mole Man's dominion, and a clean energy complex on Governor's Island. The Baxter building's architecture curves downward to a massive disc shape between the tower and the launch pad. So what is this? It looks rather like a quantum tunnel pad or a type of energy core that powers both the tower and the launch pad. And the fact that this is all right on the East River reminds us of Tony Stark powering Avengers Tower with arc reactor technology in the 2012 Avengers film with a power line that ran under that East River. So Marvel gave us this map of a clearly alternate New York City so that we would know that the Doom they were introducing was a variant Doom for this multiverse narrative. I think that is what Joe Russo was trying to indicate by saying the unimaginable possibilities of the Marvel multi-universe. Like, I trust the Russos and the movie's creative team to provide a narrative justification for why it had to be Robert Downey Jr., but I want to provide you all with just one pitch from me just to show you that I think a narrative like this could exist out there. So imagine, in this alternate universe of Fantastic Four First Steps, in order for aerospace technology to be that good as it is in the early 60s, yet with 60s fashion and 60s television formatting, that we would need to be in a reality with an alternate historical timeline for all of technology, especially in aerospace. Basically, rather than Howard Stark showing off a glitchy repulsor car at an expo in 1943, Howard Stark would have needed to have existed a generation or two earlier. Basically, it would have to be Howard Stark at the 1893 World's Fair in Chicago instead of Victor Timely and his temporal marvels. You see where I'm going here? Because the events of Loki Season 2 ended by altering things so that young Victor Timely never received the TVA manual through his window, creating a timeline where there would be no Victor Timely presenting these marvels in 1893 Chicago, and we would be in a universe completely untouched by any Kang influence. So this could set up an alternate universe Anthony Stark to be born sometime around the turn of the century, say 1901. He would be a teenager or a young man when the First World War erupted in Europe. Howard Stark would do what he did in World War II, applying his advanced weapons to help the Allies win. And young Anthony, as a young patriotic doughboy, would be fighting in the trenches. But then something happens, like the 616, Tony Stark's convoy getting bombed and him getting kidnapped, and horrified to see his enemies using his own weapons against him. This Anthony Stark would just find himself in Eastern Europe, now wanting nothing to do with his father and his father's weapons. And he could start a new life in the country of Latveria with a family who takes him in, or just someone he Don Draper style takes the name of, Von Doom. Yet, he has the same task, discovering arc reactor technology, going to college with Reed Richards and Ben Grimm. His patents for arc reactor technology and repulsor technology could be taken away from him and used to power things like a dangerous launch pad in the middle of Manhattan, a mission that would end up knocking on the door of Galactus to peer into that Baxter building, leading to apocalyptic results. Reed, to escape this doomsday, would open a rift so that he and his family could escape to another reality. But Doom, failing to protect this world from Galactus, secretly follows them into the multiverse, vowing to put a suit of armor around whatever new world he would call home. That could be the story of Doomsday. Yes, what I just described would be a what-if scenario, but it's not Demon in an armor. It's something that would ask fans of the MCU films to consider what Tony Stark was about and what he would be if he grew up in another world where someone else was smarter and more charming than he was. He would have the same task, but a new mask. Casting Robert Downey Jr. as Doom comes after he won an Oscar for playing Louis Strauss in Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer, the lowly shoe salesman turned political rival jealous of Oppenheimer's brilliance, wishing he was on the cover of Time magazine and that he was the man who moved the Earth, pushing for the escalation past atomic weapons to hydrogen bombs in a frenzy to make the world a more secure place while actually doing the opposite. In this scenario, Reed Richards in his Parallel Earth lectures could be J. Robert Oppenheimer and his quantum theory, whereas Doom could be the Louis Strauss figure, sick of his rival's fame fame and arrogance, and pining to take global security to a more dangerous extreme. Now, this would not mean that Marvel's past plans with Kang have to be scrapped, like Loki's defeat of He Who Remains in Loki Season 2 could just be the beginning of the end for the Kang Dynasty. That now makes it easy for a multiversal Doom to rise. This also would not mean we're never getting a classic Victor Von Doom origin story. There can and should be a 616 Victor Von Doom and a 616 Latveria that we get to explore during these incursion events, and further on the other side of Secret Wars. And this would not mean that Robert Downey Jr. could never return as Iron Man. He can play multiple characters in the same movie in Doomsday and Secret Wars. For what they're paying him, he should be Nutty Professoring every character in this cast. Hey, no matter what, I think we can all agree that Downey playing Dr. Doom was what this line in Endgame was setting up.
Good luck on your mission, Captain. Good luck on your project, Doctor.
So what do you think? Is Marvel just ignoring Downey's past as Tony Stark and letting him play a whole new character, regardless of how confusing that could be? Or is there something more to these clues that it had to be the face of Tony Stark under the Doom mask? Comment down below with your thoughts on all this. Follow me at EA Voss and follow all 3 channels of the new Rockstars network for breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.